$1,000 winner last night. Patrick Gentry going to be doing the driving. Comes to us from Grandview, Indiana. Our track officials over on the grandstand side working the start line will be Kurt Simmons. Our flagger at the finish line over on the grandstand side will be Jerry Nelson. Our weight transfer devices that we have tonight will be X Factor sled from Bungart Motorsports with the Fendt wrap on it. That will be on the grandstand side, and we will be using the Decision Maker over here on the hillside from Richard Love with the Ag Revolution wrap. All right, let's go pulling. Hook number one, the Tinker Toy, Patrick Gentry, Grandview, Indiana. He is our Hypermax test puller. And that is how we start night number 2 of our Fendt High Stakes Series. As always, being the test puller, the Hypermax test puller, we will see first of all if we have the Fendt sled set how we want it. And then if we do, Patrick Gentry has the option of taking that hook, dropping to 6th, or dropping to the bottom of the class. And he went 3:41.57. We're going to see if he's going to accept that 3:41.57. Meanwhile, on the hillside, once again, our winner from last night, R.J. Simon, Farley, Iowa, Peterbilt, called Drivers Wanted. Track officials on the hillside track at the start line, Mark Lowe. At the finish line, Jackie Kometz. Let's go semi-pulling. R.J. Simon, Drivers Wanted, Farley, Iowa, Peterbilt. All right there for R.J. Simon. Woo! Drivers Wanted, of course. They've got Simon's Trucking. They've got a number of businesses. Of course, they have the 300 Raceway,
yes,
where we will be in 2 weeks.
Simon's Cattle Company.
Simon's Cattle Company.
Yes.
And, of course, Simon's Trucking. So Drivers Wanted.
A monster pass from R.J. Simon. That is the way to kick off Saturday night in West Salem, Ohio.
How about this? 372 feet, 0.49, 372.49. They tell us we're going to leave the sled set as is, and he's going to take that.
I was going to say, that one I definitely take. Pat Gentry, 341. I don't know. That's kind of maybe a decision there if you think the track might come around and get better, but 372, right, you have to stay there.
All right, backing into the sled on our Pro Stock side. By the way, our Pro Stock class tonight and all season long presented by Lemke Motorsports. Brent Meyer, Red Granite, Wisconsin, backing into the sled. Not too good of a showing last night, if I can say it kind of bluntly. He got number 15 out of 19 Pro Stocks last night, wanting to improve on that here this evening. So injected funds, Brent Meyer, Red Granite, Wisconsin. The leader pylon on our grandstand side, sitting at 3:41.57, courtesy of last night's winner, the Tinker Toy. Next up on our semi-track will be Brian DeBrew, playing with fire, New Franken, Wisconsin. Let's go green, grandstand side. Brent Meyer, Red Granite, Wisconsin. And the injected funds, John Deere. Well, much better pass for Brent Meyer on the injected funds than he had last night. Looking to go in excess of 341.57. While we're waiting on his distance, let's go green on the hillside. Playing with fire, Ryan DeBrew. Ryan DeBrew playing with fire. He is the fire chief up in New Franken, Wisconsin. We will see his son, Marshall DeBrew, later on in our super stock diesel trucks. The distance over on the grandstand side for Brent Meyer injected funds was 3:35 and 60, 3:35.60. The distance over here on our hillside track for Ryan DeBrew, 3:19 and 11, 3:19 and 11. Well, we mentioned Ag Revolution is one of our major sponsors for our IHRA Pro Pulling League all season long. Darren, you have someone with us from Ag Revolution.
I do. I have Stacy Anthony, the CEO of Ag Revolution. Stacy, thank you for being out here. Tell us about Ag Revolution.
Well, Ag Revolution is a very different type of dealership. We actually take the whole dealership to the farm instead of making you come into the brick and mortar. So we take everything. We have, first of all, 12 stores in 4 states, but we have 61 mobile trucks that stretch all the way from western Kentucky, Missouri border, all the way up through Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and now we go up to the tip of the Great Lakes states in Ohio. So we're really glad to be part of this Ohio and the High Fendt Stakes Series. And being part of this community has been very rewarding for us, and getting to know all these guys one-on-one, personal basis. It's just unlike anything you've ever seen. So
that's great. Stacy, you guys have a display here too. Tell us about that.
We're up here, near the start-finish line here, and we've got some display tractors, a Fendt, and also some of our Massey compact lines up there, and a group of guys up there that are willing to tell you all about what we do and how we do it differently. But come by, stop by, take a look, and we'll be glad to tell you more.
All right, Stacy, thank you very much for being out here. Nice to meet you, and thanks for your sponsorship.
All right, bringing you up to date on the Pro Stock track, grandstand side. 2 distances in the book so far. Patrick Gentry has set the mark to beat at 3:41.57 with the Tinker Toy. And Brent Meyer laid down a pass of 3:35 and 60. Backing into the sled right now, Jason Rowan, Farley, Iowa, a John Deere 8360 called the 8R. Over on our hillside track, RJ Simon set the bar at 3:72.49, and Ryan DeBrew sitting number 2 at 3:19 and 11. Let's go green, grandstand side, the 8R, John Deere 8360 from Farley, Iowa, Jason Rowan. Spins are in right there from Farley, Iowa. Jason Rowan, John Deere 8360 called the 8R on our hillside track. Holy smokes, Lonnie Saylor, Oak Park, Minnesota. A beautiful needle-nosed Peterbilt.
Yeah, the vintage needle-nose look for Lonnie Saylor.
Oh, beautiful needle-nose Pete right there from the land of 10,000 Lakes, Oak Park, Minnesota, Lonnie Saylor. Over on the grandstand side, Jason Rowan. He goes into the number 2 spot with a pass of 3:37 and 52, 337 feet, .52 for the 8R, John Deere 8360 of Jason Rowan. Over here on our hillside track, holy smokes, Lonnie Saylor goes 3:08 and 23, 3:08.23. Now our Pro Stock tractors, all summer long, our Pro Stock class is presented by Lemke Motorsports. Darren, tell us a little bit about Lemke Motorsports.
Are you looking for a full-service machine shop that can provide you with parts and service for your tractor puller? If so, turn to none other than Lemke Motorsports. When you choose us, we'll make sure that your vehicles perform at their best. For more information, go to www.lemkedjr.com. Talk to Bob, talk to Robbie, talk to Esden, the great folks at Lemke Motorsports.
All right, coming out to the track. They got themselves a podium finish last night, finished number 3. This is the Hardcore Addiction from Hofstad, Indiana. Andrew Hartman finished number 3 last night. You know, a lot of people, when they think of Hofstad, Indiana, they think of the circle track. They think of the Tri-State Speedway sitting there because, you know, it's close to Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky.
Yep, right there on the border, just north of Henderson, Kentucky. And
when I think of Hofstad, Indiana, I think of their dad, Quentin Hartman, who won multiple championships at the 9,500-pound limited pro stocks. And then his sons, Andrew and Bradley Hartman, have continued the tradition. They jumped up into the pro stock class, the tractor back to the business end of that Fendt sled. It used to be from Rodney Schnitker, the Meltdown pro stock. The Hartman brothers bought it a few years ago. Tough running pro stock right here from Hofstad, Indiana. Finished number 3 last night. Let's see what they can do here this evening. Right there for Andrew Hartman, Hofstad, Indiana, and the Hardcore Addiction. Coming out to the sled on our hillside track for our hot rod semis presented by Mack Trailer. That will be Dale Francis from Paynesville, Ohio. Dale Francis with Maximus Prime number 2. And Andrew Hartman goes 298 and 67, 298.67. For Andrew Hartman. As I mentioned, our semi-class sponsored by Mack Trailer. Tell us a little bit about Mack Trailer, Darren.
Mack Trailer Manufacturing of Alliance, Ohio is respected as the nation's foremost manufacturer of dump, flatbed, transfer trailers, and pneumatic tanks. Mack Trailer provides ongoing solutions through high-tech product innovation and advanced engineering capabilities. As a national leader in trailer manufacturing, Mack Trailer serves the industry with a trailer to meet the rigorous demands of your hauling requirements. Let Mack build you the trailer you need with the level of quality you deserve. Experience the excellence of Mack. For more information, please visit MackTrailer.com. That's MAC Trailer.com.
All right. Our track official, Mark Lowe, is beckoning Dale Francis to pull that chain tight. Got the green flag. Maximus Prime, number 2, Paynesville, Ohio. Wow, a little bounce there at the end. Back in 2017, Dale Francis, he was our points champion in our PPL Hot Rod Semi class.
Big 998 Mack in that Mack truck.
Dale Francis, he goes 3:08.38. 3:08 and 38.
To just surpass the Holy Smokes that went 3:08 and 23. So
that's correct.
Close competition over here on the hillside in our Hot Rod Semi division.
Back over onto our grandstand side, our Pro Stock Tractors presented by Lemke Motorsports. Speaking of Lemke Motorsports, Esden Lemke, the new Generation Plus from Helenville, Wisconsin. Father and son pulling team of Robbie Lemke and Esden Lemke. Esden doing the driving duties this weekend.
Esden's 3rd generation puller. His grandpa Bob pulled as well, and Esden, so this is a small block John Deere engine, and it actually makes more torque than a lot of big block engines due to longer rods. So it seems counterintuitive that a small block would make more torque than a big block, but the Lemke Motorsports small blocks do it. They can do a lot of great work, John Deere International, no matter what color you want.
Eighth place finish for Esden last night. Let's see if he can prove on that here this evening. And the distance for Esden Lemke, 331 feet, .963, 3-1 and 96. Well, we just saw Maximus Prime number 2. Here comes the original Maximus Prime, or Maximus Prime 1, as we should say. Joe Bonner. Joe Bonner from Mantua, Ohio. Well, setting the bar right now on our semi side. He was our winner last night. He already has taken home $10,000. RJ Simon has got the leader pylon sitting at 372 and 49.
Joe Bonner in the middle of maintenance over here. So, Joe, what have you been working on today to try to get your ride ready for tonight?
We're just doing valves and whatnot. We had a couple seals here that we, cracked, taking it off. So we're just getting some new seals put on and putting it back together and get up there to the track.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Last night I know that the track conditions weren't optimal. I know you guys made some adjustments to kind of like suspension and tires and air pressure to make that happen. Today it's a switch. You guys are first class. What kind of difference is that going to make?
I think we were up there looking at the track earlier, and it looks a lot better than it did last night. Looks to be a little more moisture in it. So I think as long as it stayed a little bit of moisture in the track there, I think we're going to have a nice track tonight.
Right there for the twin stack back with the window in the back. Joe Bonner, Maximus Prime, backing in the sled on our row stop tractor side. Normally driven by Rob Russell. Tonight, this weekend, driven by Kevin Masterson, the workhorse pro. Maximus Prime goes 349 and 50. 349.50. Which will firmly put him into the number 2 spot, 349.50 for Joe Bonner. Yeah, the tractor is from Prescott, Iowa, owned and normally driven by Rob Russell this weekend. Kevin Masterson doing the driving duties. Not your typical paint job for a Case IH. Got that cherry red, beautiful paint job. Kevin drove it to a 6th place finish last night.
Yeah, if you're going to have a hired gun in the Pro Stock class, Kevin Masterson is the guy you want.
Going to be a little bit short of that leader pylon, which is sitting at 341.57 from Patrick Gentry in the Tinker Toy. Backing into the sled on our semi side, Monty Craigmile from Owenton, Kentucky in the Limitless Peterbilt.
This one powered by a Cat 3406E. Monty was on a pass at the Mack Trailer Winter Nationals back at the end of March at the Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky, and unfortunately went out of bounds, but man, he was on a monster pass there.
In the distance for Kevin Masterson and the Workhorse Pro, 3:23 and 88, 3:23.88. So Tinker Toy continues to lead on our Pro Stock sled, 3:41.57. On our Hot Rod Semi side, RJ Simon continues to lead at 3:72 and 49.
Yeah, it was a good decision by both of our Hypermax test pullers to keep those hooks thus far. You know, still out there in the lead, pretty comfortably in the lead.
All right, he rolls the chain tight. Green lights on the decision maker sled. Green flags from our track officials. The Peterbilt from the Bluegrass State, Owenton, Kentucky, Monty Craigmile, and Limitless. Turbo flutter there at the end of his pass. Backing in on our Pro Stock side, loud and heavy, Brandon Simon, Farley, Iowa. Brandon Simon, a two-time points champion in this class in 2021 and 2022. And Limitless, Monty Craigmile goes 289.59, 289 feet, 0.59 for the Limitless Peterbilt out of Owenton, Kentucky. All right, Brandon Simon, Farley, Iowa. As we mentioned, 2 weeks from this weekend, we will be at the track for RJ Simon and Brandon Simon, the 300 Raceway there for stop number 2 of the Fendt High Stakes Series. Brandon Simon, points champion in 2021 and 2022. Finished number 7 last night. Let's see if he can improve on that tonight. Loud and heavy, John Deere out of Farley, Iowa.
Yeah, Farley, Iowa, great facility there at 300 Raceway. Easy to get to right off the highway, and just a great event the Simon family puts on there.
Right there for Brandon Simon, loud and heavy, Farley, Iowa. He goes 3:14 and 21, 314 feet, 0.21, 3:14.21. Over on their hillside track. Beautiful Peterbilt out of Mount Gilead, Ohio. Scott Rule, the Mining Mayhem, went number 4 last night.
This truck sponsored by Ken Measles Supply, Sand and Gravel there in Almont, about 40 miles north of Detroit. Powered by a Cat engine, a single Weimer turbo. Ken, a former national champion in the open super stock tractor division.
Top 3 on our semis right now. Sitting number 3, Ryan DeBrew playing with fire, 3:19.11. Currently in the number 2 spot, Joe Bonner, Maximus Prime at 3:49.50. And our leader, he won last night. He's leading tonight, R.J. Simon, 372.49. That's our current top three. Let's see if Scott Rule can mix up that top three. Mining Mayhem, the Peterbilt, Mount Gilead, Ohio, on our Mack trailer, Hot Rod Semis. Well, he may not have surpassed that leading distance of 372 and change from R.J. Simon, but he might be mixing up that top three a little bit.
Yes, I didn't realize Ken Measle had a hired gun in the seat tonight, Scott Rule.
And Scott Rule goes 3:35.30, and that's exactly what he does. He puts himself into the number 3 spot. New number 3 man, 335 feet.30 for Scott Rule on Mining Mayhem. All right, Pro Stock side, our runner-up from last night. The Masterson tractors went number 1 and number 2 last night, with Tinker Toy winning and the River Rat coming in number 2. Here is Kevin Masterson, Grandview, Indiana. Well, he kept it over here, way over on the left-hand side. Just looking from over here, I do not think that's going to find him a spot in the top 3, but we will see what the laser has to say. Kevin Masterson, Grandview, Indiana, and the River Rat. .303 and 33. 3:03 and 33 for the River Rat, Kevin Masterson from Grandview, Indiana. Back over here on our hillside track, Class Act, Chris Wood. This is our points champion in 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2024. 4-time points champion. He was our runner-up last night. He comes to us from Shreve, Ohio, and his Peterbilt called the Class Act.
Yeah, hometown pull for Chris Shreve, just 20 minutes away. And a lot of times in the sport of truck or tractor pulling, your hometown is the hardest place to win. You know, you play other sports, football, basketball, baseball, talk about home field advantage or home court advantage. In pulling, it seems to go the other way. So Chris Shreve, trying to bump up one spot, needs to go farther than 372 and 49.
Say that might shake up the top 3 a little bit. He may not have gotten past R.J. Simon, but he might have found himself a spot in the top 3.
Always a good sign when you see the flag person walking backwards or running backwards.
While we await the distance on Chris Wood, backing in the sled over on the grandstand, or on the grandstand side, Brent Meyer, the Lincoln Diesel Specialties out of Red Granite, Wisconsin. We saw Brent earlier in the class with injected funds. Chris Wood goes 3:60 and 11, 3:60.11. New number 2 man. He went number 2 last night, sitting at number 2 once again here tonight. 360 feet.11 for the Class Act Peterbilt out of Shreve, Ohio. All right, once again over on our Lemke Motorsports Pro Stock Tractor side, Brent Meyer, Red Granite, Wisconsin, and the Lincoln Diesel Specialties John Deere. He's sitting at number 3 right now with the injected funds. Let's see where he's going to land the Lincoln Diesel Specialties. Lincoln Diesel Specialties went number 4 last night. He will be back a little bit on that distance tonight. He goes 3:04 and 33, 304 feet, .33, 3:04 and 33 for Brent Meyer. 2 trucks left on our Mack trailer. Hot Rod Semis. Scott Rule, we saw him earlier with Mining Mayhem. Here he is with Mining for Dollars, Mount Gilead, Ohio. We do know what Peterbilt's going to win. We have 2 Peterbilts left. Mining for Dollars, Peterbilt, and Spencer Rook, the Hillbilly Deluxe. Those will be our final 2 competitors in our Mack trailer Hot Rod Semis. Then we will move to our mini rod tractors over here on our hillside track. R.J. Simon is already $10,000 richer from his Friday night victory. Could he sweep the weekend? There's only 2 trucks that stand between him and taking home 20 grand.
He's 2 trucks away from 20 grand. Mining for Dollars, the Measle truck out of Michigan. Hired gun in the seat tonight.
Not for sure if it jumped out of gear, but somewhere around the 175 foot mark, lost the fire. While we are awaiting the distance on Scott Rule, backing into the sled on our Pro Stock side from St. Paul, Indiana, Matt Holland and Glutton for Punishment. 261 and 24 is the distance for Scott Rule, Mining for Dollars, 261.24. So 1 truck left. Spencer Rook, the Hillbilly Deluxe out of Jeromesville, Ohio. Matt Holland went number 12 last night in our Friday night edition of our Session 1 of our Fendt High Stakes Series. And right there for Matt Holland. Glutton for Punishment, St. Paul, Indiana. .304 and 48, 304 feet, .48. Currently our top 3 on our Pro Stock tractors are presented by Lemke Motorsports. Number 3 right now, Brent Meyer, injected funds, 335 and 60. Our number 2 tractor currently, Jason Rowan, the 8R John Deere. He's sitting at 337 and 52. And our current leader on our grandstand side on our Lemke Motorsports Pro Stock. The winning tractor last night was driven by Joey Harris tonight, driven by Patrick Gentry, currently sitting in the lead at 341 and 57. Meanwhile, the top 3 on our Hot Rod Semis. Number 3 is Maximus Prime, Joe Bonner, 349.50. Chris Wood, currently number 2 with Class Act at 360 and 11. And Last night's winner, R.J. Simon. He's leading the class at 372.49 with one truck to go. This is the only truck that stands between R.J. Simon and taking home $20,000. Spencer Rook backing in. He comes to us from Jeromesville, Ohio. He's driving a Peterbilt called the Hill Billy Deluxe. This is our defending points champion at the end of our 2025 PPL pulling season. This was our points champion, the Hill Billy Deluxe.
Hometown pull for Spencer Rook and a lot of the crew. They said a lot of the town of Jeromesville helps them out with this truck. Spencer and his dad, Mark, powered by a Cat 3406C, single Weimer turbo, looking to go farther than 372.49 for $10,000.
They say the hardest event to win is your hometown pole. I'm sure that Spencer Rook has got a ton of fans here in the grandstands and sitting on the hillside tonight. Help him out as he comes down the track. Our final hook in our hot rod semis presented by Mack Trailer from Jeromesville, Ohio, Peterbilt, the Hill Billy Deluxe. Did he find himself a spot in the top three? I do not think it was good enough to knock RJ off that top spot. We will have to see what the laser has to say. While we are waiting on that, Jason Rowan, Farley, Iowa, Industrial Force, finished number 5 last night. He has got the green flag displayed to him over on the grandstand side on our Limke Motorsports Pro Stock side. Jason Rowan, Industrial Force, Farley, Iowa. I love the paint job on that John Deere, the John Deere Industrial Force. All right, over here, Hillside, Hill Billy Deluxe, Spencer Rook. He goes 364.87, 364.87, so he will end up at the number 2 spot. We will have our rundown on our Mack Trailer Hot Rod semis here shortly. We do know that R.J. Simon, he will go back-to-back. He will win Friday night, $10,000, Saturday night, $10,000. 316.86 for the Industrial Force John Deere of Jason Rowan, 316.86. All right, 10 semis here tonight. 10 semis in our Mack Trailer Hot Rod semis. Number 10, Mining for Dollars, Scott Rule. Number 9, Monty Craigmile and Limitless. Number 8 will go to Lonnie Saylor, Holy Smokes. Number 7, Dale Francis and Maximus Prime. Number 2, our 6th place truck, Ryan DeBrew, Playing with Fire. And now our top 5. 5th place, Scott Rule, Mining Mayhem, 335.30. Number 4 will be Maximus Prime, Joe Bonner, 349.50. Our top 3 goes like this. Number 3, Chris Wood, Class Act from Shreve, Ohio. He goes 360.11 from the number 3 spot. Our runner-up, Spencer Rook, from right here nearby Jeromesville, Ohio. Runner-up, the Hill Billy Deluxe, 364.87. And taking home $20,000 this weekend. $10,000 on Friday night, $10,000 on a Saturday night. R.J. Simon, Farley, Iowa, driver's winner with the winning pass of 372.49. Congratulations, R.J. We will see you in 2 weeks at your home track. All right, getting ready for our mini rods.
Yeah, we go from the heaviest class we have at 20,000 pound semis to 1/10 of that weight, the 2,050 pound mini modifieds.
Yeah, we have Richard Love going to move the decision maker big sled out of the way and bring in the mini rod sled. Our mini rods all season long presented by SCS Gearbox. SCS Gearbox, our mini rod sponsor. We are in the middle of our Pro Stock tractor side on our grandstand track. Total of 19 of them. We are a little over halfway through that class. Next up, we're going to be looking for Mac Daddy, James Ray from Beloit, Ohio. The first of 2 entries from the Mac trailer pulling team. We'll have Mac Daddy, James Ray, and a little bit later we'll see Mike Connie with Mac Nasty.
Yeah, very fitting. We just finished up the Mac Trailer Hot Rod semis. We're going to move into our SCS Gearbox Minis. We know that many of our customers have specialized needs when it comes to their racing vehicles. The strong understanding that no 2 racing vehicles are the same, we are willing to work with you and do our best to get you exactly what you need without fail. It doesn't matter if it is a replacement axle, transfer case, or a specialized gear set. We'll do what we can to get you what you need. We're willing to take the extra steps and time to make this the best product you will own and be proud to own. We accept any challenge you bring us to get the special product you need for your application. We work to make your ideas become reality. Contact us today at 419-483-7278 or online at scsgearbox.com. That's SCS Gearbox.
Well, folks, as you can see, we have a few sprinkles coming down at our facility, so we're going to take just a little bit of a short break. At this time, we want to direct you to our website, the official website of the IHRA Pro Pulling League, www.propulling.com. If you go to www.propulling.com, you will find all of the dates for our 2026 pulling season. We have a number of different series that we have. Of course, we have the Fendt High Stakes Series, the 5 events on the Fendt High Stakes Series. We also have our Champions Tour. All the dates can be found on our Champions Tour, as well as the Silver Series and the Western Series. And you can also find the results from the events that have already happened. That's at www.propulling.com. I also encourage you to check out our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody that's watching the live stream through all of those different channels, speedsport.tv, propulling.tv, ihra.com, the YouTube channel. I know there's folks over in Europe watching and across the United States, so we appreciate that. And don't forget, all 5 stops of the Fendt High Stakes Series, absolutely free for the live stream. Cool things in the Rural King stores. So I guess maybe we'll take a moment now that we have a pause to introduce ourselves. Leroy?
Yeah, I'm Leroy Schluter. I am from Sydney, Illinois. There's several pullers from Sydney, Illinois. Jeremy Nelson and his son Tanner Nelson, and then Tanner kind of took over the seat from his mom, Misty. Misty is a longtime puller, but now that Tanner's turned 16, he's kind of taken away the seat time there from his mom. But I'm from Sydney, Illinois. I was with the Pro Pulling League for quite a while, and then I took a couple years off. I didn't do anything at all in 2024 or 2025. And then when the Fendt High Stakes Series got announced at the PRI show, I thought, you know what? That would be probably pretty cool to be a part of. So I'm glad to be back associated with the IHRA Pro Pulling League. So I'm Leroy Schluter, and then, of course, Darren Hartwell. Glad to be working with you, Darren.
Yes, my name is Darren Hartwell. I'm from Fairgrove, Michigan, home of the Michigan Bean Festival. For this year will be the 80th year of the Michigan Bean Festival. And one clarification, I know we're here in Ohio. Leroy, you're from Illinois.
Yeah, you mean the Illinois Fighting Illini, the team that made the Final Four, NCAA Final Four?
Yes, them.
Okay.
But I do have to clarify something. Every time Leroy says go green, it's my natural instinct to say go white, because I'm a big Michigan State fan. So, I just want to clarify that here in Ohio. Michigan State Spartans, go green, go white.
Well, if you look into the lights, you can see there are no more raindrops, or more importantly, what you can't see. So I think we just had a little brief sprinkle. I think the rain has stopped, so we're going to scrape the top of the track, and then get back to pro stock pulling here. So right now, our top three in our pro stocks, the Tinker Toy, Joey Harris drove it to a win last night. Patrick Gentry doing the driving this evening. Tinker Toy sitting at number 1 at 3:41 and 57. Currently, Jason Rowan from Farley, Iowa, was sitting number 2 at 3:37 and 52. And Injected Funds, Brent Meyer is sitting number 3 at 3:35 and 60. We have one class that's been completed over here on our hillside track, the Hot Rod Semis. RJ Simon, who was our Friday night winner, is also our Saturday night winner. So if you didn't already know, each winner of all 8 classes, we gave away $10,000 per winning tractor last night, winning truck. We're doing that again tonight. So $160,000 going to the winners this weekend. We are getting ready to commence with our mini rod class over here on our hillside track. We have 16 mini rods this evening.
The cool thing about the Fendt High Stakes Series, it's the same competitors all season long on all 5 stops of the Fendt High Stakes Series. So they will be competing against each other all season long. $10,000 to win each class every night. Another thing we didn't touch on, our pro stocks. 10,000-pound pro stocks, 680 cubic inches, a single turbo on the pro stock.
Yeah, they run 24.532s. They can run intercoolers, aftercoolers. They can run cooling devices. And I know a new pro stock class, like in the last several years, is the 5.0 pro stocks. That's not what these are. These are the full-blown pro stocks. I think we got the next pro stock fired up, and I see our starting line track official Kurt Simmons. He has beckoned the next pro stock out, which will be James Ray, the Mac Daddy pro stock out of Beloit, Ohio. 2 entries from the Mac Trailer pulling team, Mac Daddy, James Ray, and then we will see the Mac Nasty, Mike Connie, a little bit later on in the class. If any of you were in Louisville, Kentucky last weekend in March, we had the Mac Trailer Winter Nationals inside Freedom Hall. The winner of the semis there was RJ Simon, so he is on a roll. He is on a roll. He won the Mac Trailer Winter Nationals indoor there at Freedom Hall. And then he won last night, Friday night, of our night number 1 of our Fendt High Stakes Series, and followed it up with the win again here tonight. Well, thank you for your patience. We're ready to get our Saturday evening show back underway. currently the leader pylon, once again sitting at 341 and 57, courtesy of the Tinker toy, Patrick Gentry. Darren, I don't know about you, but my text message of last night and throughout the night and this morning just blew up of people talking about how incredible the live stream was.
Absolutely, Leroy. I mean, just the quality, everybody was raving about it that I received feedback from.
I mean, you can see the boom camera down there at the start line, and you probably have seen the drone flying in the air. So we want to thank Ross Fitz and his crew putting on a stellar production for our Pro Pulling League, our IHRA Pro Pulling League live stream. And you know, the best thing about it is it's free. That's so cool. That's incredible.
And not just tonight, the entire season.
All right, thanks for your patience, folks. Let's go back pulling. We're going green. The Mac Daddy out of Beloit, Ohio, James Ray. Mac Daddy, James Ray. I believe that's the son-in-law of Mike Connie. No, I'm wrong. Okay, all right. Bad information. Hashtag fake news. All right, from Beloit, Ohio, James Ray, make it happen. 3:07 and 45, 307 feet, .45 for the Mac Daddy Pro Stock out of Beloit, Ohio, 3:07.45. That'll currently put him into the number 7 spot. Our lineup for our mini rod tractors presented by SCS Gearbox, 16 of them. We're going to start out with the dirt slinger, Abby Leishner. She was our 2019 points champion aboard the Bobcat Junior. She's going to be puller number 1 with the dirt slinger. Then we will have the Wheatland Express Mini Edition, Logan Stevens. Tanner Nelson will be puller number 3 with Half Past Midnight. Adam Kester with Walk the Line, and then Mike Evans, It's No Joke. Tyler Slall, our winner from last night, Have No Mercy, will be puller number 6. Todd Boltman, Stress Relief. Brett Berg with North American Trailer. Jeff Hurt, Bobcat Jr. Jeremy Nelson, a Little Hurricane. Jeremy Smith with Firestorm. Adam Kester, Footloose. Logan Stevens, the Kansas Twister. Brett Berg, Cash Cow. Adam Kester, Beast of Burden. And then Bruce Slaw, Show No Mercy. That is going to be the order of hook for our mini rod tractors presented by SCS Gearbox. But
Leroy,
going back on the grandstand side, our Pro Stock tractors. This tractor made its world debut at the 2026 National Farm Machinery Show Championship Tractor Pull. First time down the track, it was driven by R.J. Simon. Brian Long doing the driving now. The Fendt, make it happen. I remember the tractor was covered up in the Fendt booth and had the big reveal.
Yeah, that was cool. That's one of those things, we talk about social media and, going viral. That was one of those moments this year at the National Farm Machinery Show. And we've talked a lot about Fendt, the Fendt High Stakes Series. We talked to Stacy Anthony from Ag Revolution, and now we have the only Fendt pulling tractor in this class, the Make It Happen, Brian Long.
3:41.57, the mark to beat. All right, let's see if he can make it happen with the Make It Happen Fendt. Brian Long, Williamsburg, Ohio. Man, good strong run right there for the Fendt.
Yeah, it seems like they're starting to get that tractor dialed in. You know, when you build a new vehicle, it takes time to dial it in, and every pass you make, every trip down the track gives you more data points, more experience.
.324 feet, .05, 3, 2, 4. And 05, which will put him currently into the number 5 spot. Lands him a spot right there in the top 5 as we look at the replay. Picture perfect pass right here, just coming right down that left side chalk line. The Make It Happen Fendt, 324 feet, .05. Well, we saw the Mac Daddy Pro Stock earlier with James Ray. Next up, we'll be looking for the Mac Nasty Pro Stock, Mike Connie, also from Beloit, Ohio. We are getting the sled, the mini sled, weighted properly before we start our mini rod class presented by SCS Gearbox. Pro Stocks that we have left: Mac Nasty, Mike Connie, Beloit, Ohio. The Bulletproof Buck, Clint Metting, Nordheim, Texas. Jason Savanovic with the Bootlegger from Rockwood, Pennsylvania. Denny Brown, Clay, Kentucky. Green with Envy. Jeremy Smith, Medina, Ohio, with the Cat Challenger called Spontaneous Combustion. And then we will wrap up our Pro Stock class with Conley Metting from Nordheim, Texas, with the Bullwagon. So 19 Pro Stocks here. We've seen 13 of them. 13 of Hook's, 6 to go. And it's raining again. Well, as you can hear from the rumbles and see with the sprinkles, we are going to be in another delay. Hopefully it's a short delay like our last one was. We are requesting everyone to get out of the grandstands, please. There has been lightning detected in the area. So for your safety, we are asking you please get out of the grandstands.
So I caught Joe Bonner in the middle of maintenance over here. So Joe, what have you been working on today to try to get your ride ready for tonight?
We're just doing valves and whatnot. We had a couple seals here that we cracked, taking it off, so we're just getting some new seals put on and putting it back together and get up there to the track.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Last night I know that the track conditions weren't optimal. I know you guys made some adjustments to kind of like suspension and tires and air pressure to make that happen. Today it's a switch. You guys are first class. What kind of difference is that going to make?
I think we were up there looking at the track earlier, and it looks a lot better than it did last night. Looks to be a little more moisture in it. So I think as long as it stayed a little bit of moisture in the track there, I think we're going to have a nice track tonight.
So you're going to want to go. All right, 3, 2. So it was a hard charge late in the class for Esden Lemke to put yourself in the top 10, and it was a tough track out there. So talk about how you were able to make those moves when other people hadn't ahead of you.
We moved a lot of weight back. Like, it was nice being able to watch the first 15, 16 hooks, and everybody was kind of heavy, so we kind of moved some weight back just beforehand and moved a couple more back, and I think that helped. And I drove it just a little harder and I think that helped me coming out the hole fast. And I think I got a little close to the sideline and just had to tap the brake a little hard, and that didn't help me at the end. But we were very happy about that pass and can't complain.
So a lot of new things here for the Judge Next Generation, and it's mainly the chassis. And sometimes when you come out with a new chassis, you kind of don't know how it's going to react, but a top 5 for you guys last night.
Yeah, we were real thrilled. New modern machine chassis. It's doing great for us. We've had a couple of runs on it. We're very happy. Just keep progressing, make some small tweaks with our engines and different setup to see how everything works. Looking to improve on our top 5. Real pleased with that run last night. See if we can do better tonight.
Yeah, and this is an Ohio State track, and you guys long time, Ohio State pullers, but different dirt here. And so did you kind of know what to expect, and do you have a better game plan for today?
Well, I thought I knew I was going to expect, and then they brought in some new dirt. So but you have to roll with the punches. Everybody has to deal with the same track, same conditions. So tonight we'll see. Looking to have a little bit better condition. We hope they do, but whatever it is, we'll make the best of it.
Yeah, I think the rain might have helped you guys out as well, too.
Yeah, that natural moisture definitely helped.
So the last time we saw the Thorn, we saw a bunch of rods get kicked on the ground. Quite a comeback last night to come forth. What was the process to get everything rebuilt and ready for action this weekend?
2.5 solid months of nonstop, every nut and bolt on this thing. Apart, put together, clean, torqued, everything. So last night was a little bit soft first time out.
Well, and you said too that, maybe we didn't have it all out there as we should have, just because it's a long weekend. And I think a lot of people have to remember, this is a marathon of competition. It's not a sprint.
That's right. And for us, we might have been the first ones out. Probably half the class was out in Louisville. The other half was in Evansville last week. This was our first true time out with everything being back together, so we definitely played it safe.
And, where are we gauging our prospects on last night? Are we hopeful for what there is to come and room to grow?
100%. There's definitely room to grow. But with that being said, I think we have 10 tractors in the class that any 10 can win. And I think you're going to see that mixed up all year.
Perfect. Right, 3, 2. So 3 entries for the Kester crew here in the Fendt High Stakes Series. But Adam, you were telling me that doesn't really mean that you've got a lot of opportunities to make changes and really grow. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, in the mini rod class, it's kind of difficult because we don't have a gearbox that we can change gears. If we feel like we got the wrong gear, we can't really change it. So the gear's set. Really, the only thing we can do is mess with the drawbar or the hitch, maybe the engine, maybe a little tuning in the engine. But yeah, we kind of go up there, and they're all kind of similar. So if one's going to be bad, they're probably all going to be bad. But that's just part of it. 3 opportunities is good. I, as a driver, if I feel that I didn't do a good job driving, I just need to do better, and maybe it'll improve my position.
Yeah, and you came out really with some stunners last night. Ended up 4th, 7th, and 12th. I know that last one's not the number that you wanted, but still, how were you able to keep all 3 so consistent? That's just phenomenal.
Yeah, you got to keep a clear head and not let it really get to you. When you're almost back to back, there was only one in between us, so you're rushing down. There's not a lot of adjustments. We wanted to mess with the hitch a little bit, made a slight adjustment there, made a better pass. Thought we knew we had too much time to think about it, so we thought we had it made, and then we ended up doing way worse. So That's just part of it, sometimes. But I've done some work on them today, and I think we're going to have a better shot tonight.
3, 2. Some may say a new set of shoes doesn't make a big difference, but I think it does here in the Super Farm class. And Dan, you're running a new set of tires this weekend. How's the break-in process, and what are you learning so far?
Well, they're a whole new tire. Mark Hawthorne, Chad Mayhill have purchased this company, and it's a whole new deal. So we're all kind of starting from square one. There's a few guys in the class that have them on, but it's going to be a little learning curve, and once we get them figured out, I think we're going to be pretty good.
Did you have kind of an idea where you needed to start with air pressure and how the sidewall was going to work for you and things like that?
We can kind of compare them to some old notes, but the sidewall's a little different than the face is a little. There's just little differences in them, and so we're trying to kind of pick what we think will work with each one, and we just have to find that happy medium.
It definitely helped you. I know last year was a little bit of a struggle, and now coming back 4th last night, you got to be happy with that.
Yeah, tires in this game are so important, and we've struggled for the last several years trying to. We'd hit things right at times, and then we'd screw things up at times, and it's been really, the consistency hasn't been there, and that's what we're hoping to fix with these now.
So the time for one more, 2nd on the box last night, and a lot of changes in the rear end have gotten you a little bit more stability on the track.
Yeah, we had a stroke of failures with this tractor last summer in Nashville, Illinois, and kind of had to totally rebuild everything, put her back together, and so far it's working pretty good. So
I love that you were able to save the block, because that's a huge for you guys. When you brought it back out, though, I know that an indoor pull you had success and you won. Were you worried that wasn't going to transfer outdoors?
Yeah, you never know, and the tire setup's working, and everything else is running good. If you get it weighted right, hopefully you get a good pass, get a good draw, and get some luck on your side. So
we always see Jeff Hurd in something associated with Bear, but this is not your typical ride. What are you doing in here, Jeff?
I'm blessed enough that Boer family and Leisner's asked me if I'd drive this for them, and it's an honor to be able to, and hopefully we can get a little better finish tonight than we did last night. But we had a respectable pass. It's a great little tractor. My 2 old mini rods were both Boer chassis, and I still say they're the best in the class.
Well, and you're a pretty good fit. I mean, it's not like you won a championship or anything in those chassis, so you know what you're doing out there.
Yeah, we've had very good success with them, and it's awesome to be part of it, and to get asked to join to be part of the team here and there, and that it's an honor.